Welcome. As the world outside settles into the quiet of night, let us journey together into the distant past. The air grows still, the sounds of the day fade, and a gentle darkness blankets the landscape. Here, in this peaceful space, we can allow our minds to drift, to wander through the whispered secrets of history. Carried on the cool night breeze, imagine the soft glow of moonlight on ancient stones, the scent of damp earth rising from a long-forgotten dig site. We are about to explore the enigmatic world of archaeology, not with the harsh light of definitive answers, but with the gentle curiosity of wonder. Tonight, we will walk among ruins and artifacts that hold stories yet to be fully told, mysteries that continue to puzzle the brightest minds. There is no need to hurry. There is nothing to solve. Our purpose is simply to observe, to ponder, and to drift. Before we begin our exploration, take a moment to settle in. Find a comfortable position. Let your body grow heavy and relaxed. Now, take a slow, deep breath in, filling your lungs completely. And as you exhale, release the day, letting it float away like a leaf on a calm stream. Allow your thoughts to become light, untethered, ready to travel. Our journey begins not with a map, but with a question mark. We find ourselves standing at the edge of a vast desert at twilight. The sky is a canvas of deep indigo and fading orange, and a canopy of stars begins to emerge, one by one. Underneath this celestial dome lie sands that have shifted and swirled for millennia, guiding puzzles that challenge our understanding of what was possible, of who came before us. Think of the Nazca lines in Peru, immense geoglyphs etched into the arid plains. From the ground, they are little more than shallow trenches in the reddish-brown soil. But from the sky, they transform into breathtaking figures: a hummingbird, a monkey, a spider, a man, spanning over 50 miles. These creations are so large that their true forms can only be appreciated from high above. Who were their creators? The Nazca people, who flourished here between 100 BCE and 800 CE. But why did they pour such immense effort into art that they themselves could never fully see? Were these lines astronomical calendars, mapping the constellations that glittered in their pristine night sky? Were they pathways for sacred rituals, walked by priests under the light of the moon? Or perhaps they were messages, offerings to powerful deities who resided in the heavens above. Each theory is like a single torch illuminating a small corner of a vast, dark cavern. The lines remain, silent witnesses etched into the earth. As we float above them in our imagination, we don't seek a single answer. Instead, we absorb the profound mystery, the sheer scale of the endeavor. Feel the quiet awe that such a creation inspires. The wind whispers across the plateau, carrying with it the dust of centuries and the echoes of unanswered questions. Let's allow the image of the desert plains to soften, to dissolve like a mirage, as we drift across oceans and continents. Our next stop takes us to a windswept island in the middle of the Pacific, one of the most remote inhabited places on Earth. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. Here, under the same moon that shines on us now, stand the moai, nearly 1,000 colossal stone statues, with their stoic faces and imposing brows. Gaze inland from platforms along the coast, carved from volcanic tuff. Some stand over 30 feet tall and weigh more than 80 tons. They are monolithic, silent sentinels of a lost civilization. The people of Rapa Nui carved these giants with simple stone tools, a feat of engineering and artistry that is difficult to comprehend. How did they transport these massive statues from miles across the island's rugged terrain, from the quarry where they were born to their final resting places? Oral traditions speak of the moai walking to their platforms. Scientists have proposed various methods involving ropes, sledges, and manpower, but no single theory has been universally accepted. The truth remains shrouded in the mists of time that often swirl around this enigmatic island. And what of the civilization that created them? A society capable of such monumental works eventually faced a dramatic decline. What happened on this isolated speck of land to bring about its collapse? As we stand before these silent giants, their empty eye sockets seem to look through us, into the past. We can almost feel the rhythm of the chisels, hear the chants of the workers, and sense the deep spiritual conviction that drove them. The mystery is not just in the how, but in the why. Why? This obsession with carving their deified ancestors in stone. And why did it end? The island keeps its secrets well, offering us only the profound silence of its stone guardians. As we continue our gentle, drifting journey, we leave the shores of Rapa Nui behind. The sound of the waves lapping against the volcanic rock fades, replaced by the hushed stillness of an ancient, subterranean world. We find ourselves descending into the earth, into a labyrinth of tunnels in Turkey, a place known as Deep. This is not a simple cave, but an entire underground city. Descending 18 stories deep, it was large enough to house up to 20,000 people, along with their livestock and food supplies, carved from the soft volcanic rock of the region. It is a marvel of ancient urban planning. It contains everything a community would need to survive. Living quarters, stables, churches, wine presses, and ventilation shafts that provided fresh air even to the lowest levels. Massive stone doors, like giant millstones, could be rolled into place to seal off corridors, protecting the city's inhabitants from invaders. Who are these people who chose to build their world beneath the surface? And what dangers were so great that they compelled them to retreat into the darkness? Historians believe the city was expanded and used over centuries by different peoples, perhaps as a refuge during times of war or persecution. Imagine the feeling of being deep within the earth. The air cool and still, the only light coming from flickering torches casting long shadows on the rock-hewn walls. The silence here is different, deep, resonant, quiet that feels ancient and absolute. Every chamber, every tunnel, holds the echo of a hidden life. While we know something of who used this city, the full story of its origin and the societies that called it home remains buried in layers of history. It is a testament to human ingenuity and the powerful instinct for survival. A city of shadows that poses as many questions as it answers. Our journey through these archaeological enigmas is just beginning. The night is still young, and the past is a vast and mysterious landscape. There is no need to hold on to any single thought or image. Let them drift by like clouds in the night sky. As we float onward, we leave the underground city behind, rising gently back to the surface, ready to see where the quiet currents of curiosity will take us next. Let the cool wind carry our thoughts across the moonlit stones of Baalbek in Lebanon. Here, nestled in the Bekaa Valley, lies a Roman temple complex of breathtaking scale. But it's the foundation that whispers the deepest enigmas. Beneath the grand temple of Jupiter rests the trilithon, a series of 3 colossal limestone blocks, each weighing an estimated 800 tons. Imagine, for a moment, the quiet dedication it would take to quarry, transport, and lift these monoliths into place. They're so perfectly joined that a knife blade cannot slip between them. How is this achieved? Some theories suggest a complex system of rollers, ramps, and an immense workforce, a ballet of human ingenuity choreographed over years. Others look to the nearby quarry, where an even larger stone, the stone of the pregnant woman, lies, tipping the scales at over 1,000 tons, as if awaiting a journey it never took. It offers a silent clue, a frozen moment in the process. Yet the full story remains just beyond our grasp, a question etched in stone under the vast, starry sky. Now, let our journey drift south, down the Nile to Aswan, Egypt, where the desert holds another giant in slumber. Here, in the ancient granite quarries, lies the unfinished obelisk. Had it been completed, it would have been the largest single piece of stone ever carved by ancient Egyptians. Standing nearly 140 feet tall and weighing almost 1,200 tons. But a fatal crack appeared in the granite during its creation, and it was abandoned, forever tethered to the bedrock. It serves as a unique window into their methods. We can see the tool marks, the channels pounded out with hard dolerite balls, a testament to unimaginable patience and effort. The sheer logistics of raising such a monolith from its quarry bed, let alone transporting it hundreds of miles down the Nile, presents a puzzle that continues to challenge engineers today. Was it a combination of levers, ropes, and sand-filled barges? We can trace the possibilities, but the sheer scale of the ambition, frozen here in Midak, leaves us in quiet wonder at the minds that dared to dream so big. Let's travel across the vast expanse of the Pacific, where the sound of distant surf meets the silent gaze of the moai on Rapa Nui, or Easter Island. Nearly 1,000 of these iconic statues stand watch, their stoic faces carved from the island's volcanic tuff. The real mystery isn't just their carving, but their journey. How did these figures, some weighing over 80 tons, travel miles from the Rongorongo quarry to their ceremonial platforms, the Ahu, dotting the coastline? Oral traditions of the islanders speak of the moai walking to their destinations. This has inspired fascinating experiments. Some researchers suggest a system of ropes and a coordinated team could indeed rock the statues forward in a walk-in motion. Others propose they were laid on their backs or fronts and moved along wooden sleds over rollers, a slow, arduous procession across the island's rolling hills. Each theory requires immense social organization and a deep understanding of physics, a collaboration between community and environment, played out under the same moon that now illuminates their silent, watchful forms. Our minds now wander to the high Andes, to the windswept plateau of Puma Punku. In Bolivia, the air is thin here, but the questions are heavy. The site is a scatter of immense, intricately carved stone blocks, remnants of a structure that defies easy explanation. What is most staggering are the S-shaped blocks, made of hard andesite and diorite, featuring perfectly straight edges, interior right angles, and joints so precise they seem almost machine-made. How were these cuts achieved with the tools believed to be available to the Tiwanaku culture? Some hypothesize a lost technique of shaping and polishing stone, using sand, water, and immense time. Others point to the possibility of advanced knowledge of geometry and stone masonry that has been lost to us. The pieces lie scattered like a complex, three-dimensional puzzle, a testament to a level of precision that feels almost otherworldly in this remote, high-altitude landscape. The stones themselves don't speak, but their silent, perfect forms pose a question that echoes in the Andean wind. Finally, we descend slightly into the sacred valley of Peru, to the formidable fortress temple of Ollantaytambo. This site served as a stronghold for the Inca resistance, but its foundations are even older. Gigantic terraces climb the steep mountainside, built with a skill that is hard to comprehend. But the true marvel is the Temple of the Sun at the summit. It features 6 enormous pink granite monoliths, each weighing over 50 tons, brought from a quarry on another mountain across the valley miles away. And down a steep descent, then across the Urubamba River, and finally hoisted up the terrace slopes. How? Hypotheses involve massive labor forces pulling the stones on ramps, using gravity to their advantage where possible, and constructing special bridges to cross the river. We can see some of the tired stones, abandoned along the route, offering clues to the immense struggle. Looking at these perfectly fitted walls standing strong against centuries of sun and wind, we are not just seeing a structure, but feeling the echo of an incredible human endeavor, a testament to a people who moved mountains, not just with muscle, but with a will as unyielding as the stone itself. Now, our attention turns to another, perhaps even more perplexing object. The Roman dodecahedra. Imagine holding a small, hollow bronze object in your palm. It's about the size of a fist, cast with 12 flat pentagonal faces, each face pierced with a circular hole of a different diameter. At each of the 20 corners, a small, decorative knob protrudes. Dozens of these have been found across what was once the Roman Empire, from Wales to Hungary, mostly dating from the 2nd to the 4th century AD. The mystery, no one knows what they were for. There are no surviving written accounts, no depictions of them in use. The craftsmanship is often quite fine, suggesting they were valued items. Some scholars propose they were candlesticks, the varied holes holding different-sized candles. Others suggest they were surveying instruments or rangefinders for Roman artillery, though their lack of standardization makes this unlikely. A more whimsical theory is that they were knitting aids for making gloves, with each knob holding a stitch, or perhaps they were simply toys, elaborate dice for a game whose rules are lost to time. Each theory has its flaws, leaving the dodecahedron as a beautiful, silent enigma from the Roman world. A puzzle box without a solution. Let's travel forward in time and eastward in geography to a dusty storeroom in the National Museum of Iraq. Here, we find a curious collection of small clay jars, discovered in the 1930s near Baghdad. They date back to the Parthian or Sasanian periods, around 2,000 years ago. Inside each terracotta pot is a cylinder made of a rolled copper sheet, suspended in the center of this cylinder, but not touching it, is an iron rod held in place by an asphalt plug that seals the top. What could this strange assembly be? When filled with an acidic liquid, like vinegar or grape juice, this device can produce a small but measurable electric current, a little over 1 volt. This led to the electrifying name, the Baghdad Battery. But if it was a battery, what did they power? The most popular theory is that it was used for electroplating, applying a thin layer of gold or silver onto other objects. Yet, no electroplated artifacts from this period have been definitively identified. Other ideas suggest it was used in a medical context for mild electrotherapy, or perhaps it was part of a religious ritual, where priests could deliver a slight tingling shock to a worshipper, creating a sense of divine or magical connection. The mainstream archaeological view is more cautious, suggesting the vessels were simply for storing sacred scrolls, and the metallic elements are merely remnants of the scroll's casing. The electrical property is a complete coincidence. The battery theory remains a fascinating what-if, a spark of modern technology, seemingly ignited in the ancient world. From a potential source of power, we move to an object of incredible endurance, the Iron Pillar of Delhi, in India, standing over 7 meters tall and weighing more than 6 tons. This pillar has been a silent witness to history for over 1,600 years. It was erected by a king named Chandra, likely Chandragupta II, a powerful emperor of the Gupta dynasty. What makes it so extraordinary isn't just its age or size, but its remarkable resistance to rust. For centuries, it has stood exposed to Delhi's monsoon rains and humid air. Yet it shows only minimal corrosion. Modern metallurgists have been astounded by its purity and composition. Analysis reveals that it is made of 98% wrought iron, but with a high phosphorus content and a lack of sulfur, a combination that creates a thin, protective passive film on the surface, shielding the iron beneath from the elements. How did ancient Indian blacksmiths achieve this feat? The conventional view is that it was an accidental byproduct of their smelting process. They used charcoal fires, which introduced the high phosphorus content from the ore and wood, and hammered the iron in a way that expelled most impurities but left just enough slag to contribute to the protective layer. It wasn't a secret formula they consciously understood, but a result of their traditional methods. Still, standing before it, one QI and help, but marvel at the skill that produced an object so durable it has outlasted empires and continues to puzzle scientists today. It is a testament to an ancient craft that, whether by design or by fortunate accident, achieved a level of perfection that we struggle to replicate. Now, let's gently lift a much smaller, more delicate object from the shelf. Discovered in a tomb in Saqqara, Egypt, in 1898, this artifact, carved from sycamore wood, is known as the Saqqara Bird. It dates back to around 200 BC at first glance. It looks like a simple figurine of a falcon, a common motif in Egyptian art representing the god Horus. It has a wingspan of about 7 inches and a bird-like body. But look closer. The wings are not shaped like a typical bird's. They're straight and thick, with a downward curve, much like the airfoil of a modern aircraft. The tail is also unusual. It's vertical, like the rudder of a plane, not horizontal like a bird's tail feathers. These aerodynamic features have led some to propose a truly radical idea, that the Saqqara bird is not a bird at all, but a model of an ancient glider. Could the ancient Egyptians have understood the principles of flight? Tests with replicas have produced mixed results. Some have flown short distances as gliders, while others have been less successful. Mainstream Egyptologists remain unconvinced. They point out that it lacks a horizontal stabilizer, a crucial component for stable flight, and argue that it is most likely a stylized bird figurine, perhaps a child's toy, a weather vane, or a ceremonial object that sat atop a sacred boat mast. The true purpose of the little wooden artifact from Saqqara remains aloft, a flight of fancy for some, a simple carving for others, drifting between the worlds of myth and science. Our journey now leads us to the sun-baked plains of the Indus Valley, a cradle of civilization that thrived over 4,000 years ago. Scattered among the ruins of cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa are thousands of small, inscribed object seals, tablets, and pottery fragments. They bear a script of elegant, complex symbols, fish-like figures, geometric shapes, and what appeared to be human and animal forms. This is the Indus script, a silent language from a lost world. Despite possessing over 4,000 inscribed artifacts, we cannot read a single word. The inscriptions are frustratingly short, averaging just 5 symbols. Is it a logosyllabic script, like Sumerian cuneiform, where signs represent both words and sounds? Or is it a purely syllabic or alphabetic system? The lack of a bilingual text, a Rosetta Stone for the Indus Valley, leaves us adrift. Scholars have proposed countless theories. Some, pointing to the frequency of the fish symbol, suggest it represents a word, perhaps a deity or a family name. Others argue the script isn't a true writing system at all, but a collection of religious or astronomical symbols meant to be understood without being read aloud. The seals, often found with images of powerful animals like unicorns and bulls, might have served as markers of identity, ownership, or authority in a bustling trade network. Each theory opens a new door, yet behind each door lies another locked room. The people of the Indus Valley left behind magnificent cities and sophisticated artifacts, but their voices, trapped in these tiny, beautiful symbols, remain an echo we cannot quite hear. Let's travel westward across the sea, to the Minoan civilization on the island of Crete. Here, among the ruins of ancient palaces, another enigma was unearthed, a script known as lineare. It flows across clay tablets, in graceful cursive lines, a stark contrast to the rigid impressions of its contemporary cuneiform. Lineare was the administrative language of the Minoans for centuries, used to record goods, tally livestock, and manage the wealth of their maritime empire. We know what it was used for, but not what it says. We can recognize numerals and certain commodities because of the later deciphered script, Linear B, which the Mycenaeans adapted from Linear A to write their own Greek language. Using Linear B as a guide, we can assign phonetic values to many Linear A signs. Batwen Wedo, the resulting words are gibberish. They don't match any known language. The leading theory is that Linear A records a native Minoan language, a tongue lost to time, with no known relatives. Some scholars have tried to connect it to Anatolian languages like Luwian, while others look to Semitic languages from the Near East. But each attempt is a dead end. The tablets speak of wine, olive oil, and grain, of amounts and transactions. But the names of the people, the places, the gods they worshipped, all remain locked behind a phonetic veil. Linear A is a ghost language, its sounds and meanings haunting the very tablets that were meant to preserve them. From the ancient Mediterranean, our journey takes a great leap across the globe to the most isolated inhabited place on Earth, Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. Here a local people created a unique and mysterious script called Rongorongo, carved onto wooden tablets. The script is a procession of stylized figures, birds, fish, plants, and celestial bodies. The lines of text run in a fascinating pattern called reverse boustrophedon. You read a line from left to right, then turn the tablet 180 degrees to read the next line. According to island oral history, only a small elite of scribes and priests could read Rongorongo, using it to chant genealogies, proverbs, and sacred myths during rituals. But by the late 19th century, disease, raids, and cultural upheaval had silenced those who held the key. Not a single person who could read the script remained. Today, only 24 tablets survive, scattered in museums around the world. Attempts to decipher it have been numerous. Some researchers believe it's a true syllabic writing system, while others propose it's a complex memory aid that provides cues for a memorized chant rather than representing spoken language directly. Is the Birdman figure a god, a syllable, or a reminder of a specific ritual? Without a living tradition or a key to unlock its meaning, the Rongorongo tablets are simply beautiful, silent artifacts. Their stories as mysterious as the giant stone moai that watch over the island. Let's return to Crete, to the Minoan palace of Phaistos. In 1908, an archaeologist uncovered a single, small disc of fired clay, about 6 inches in diameter. On both sides, a spiral of stamped symbols winds its way to the center. This is the Phaistos Disc, one of archaeology's most famous puzzles. Unlike the hand-drawn Linear A, the disc's 242 symbols were impressed into the wet clay with individual punches or stamps, making it the world's earliest known example of movable type. The 45 unique symbols are pictorial and enchanting. A plumed head, a running man, a ship, a flowering plant. But what do they mean? The text is too short, and the artifact too singular to provide enough context for deciding. Is it a hymn, a prayer, a magical incantation? Some scholars, noting the spiral form, suggest it might be a celestial map or a calendar. Others have tried to link the language to Greek, Hittite, or even Proto-Ionian. The debate over its origin is just as fierce. Was it made in Crete, or is it an import from somewhere else in the ancient world? A lone message from a culture we have yet to discover. The Phaistos Disc is a perfect enigma. It feels deeply important, crafted with such care and technological innovation, yet it tells us nothing. It simply spins its silent tail in a spiral, forever drawing us in, forever keeping its secrets. Our final stop takes us to the Andes Mountains of South America, to the vast and powerful Inca Empire. The Inca built thousands of miles of roads, ruled over millions of people, and constructed architectural marvels like Machu Picchu, all without a conventional writing system. Instead, they used a remarkable device called a quipu. Consists of a main cord from which numerous smaller, knotted strings hang. The color of the strings, the type of knot used, the position of the knot on the string, and the way the strings are spun and plied together all held meaning. Spanish chroniclers reported that quipus were used by specialized accountants, the quipucumeocs, to record census data, tribute obligations, and storehouse inventories. They were, in essence, three-dimensional spreadsheets. The knots represented numbers in a decimal system, a code that we have largely cracked. But many believe there is more to the quipu. Some accounts suggest they also recorded histories, genealogies, and even poems. This theory of an additive quipu proposes that the other elements to the twists, the very structure formed a binary code, a tactile language that encoded stories and ideas. Was the red string a symbol for a warrior, and a white string a symbol for peace? Could a series of knots? In the quiet corners of our ancient past, there are stories whispered not in words, but in the earth itself. On the shores of the Black Sea, near Motorende Varna, a vast necropolis was discovered, dating back over 6,000 years. Here, in the twilight of the Copper Age, a society laid its dead to rest with a reverence that still echoes today. Some graves were simple, but others held treasures that dazzled the imagination. In one, the remains of a man, perhaps a chieftain or a priest, were adorned with more than 1,000 gold objects. Bracelets coiled around his arms, intricate beads lay upon his chest, and a golden scepter rested in his hand. What does this stunning display of wealth signify? Perhaps it was a testament to his power in life, a way to ensure his status carried into the world beyond. Or maybe it was a community's offering, a collective prayer of precious metal given to the earth and the spirits that govern their world. The graves at Varna also hold a deeper mystery. Many are symbolic burials, known as these graves contain no human remains, yet they are filled with the same golden artifacts, the same carefully placed pottery. Some even feature life-sized clay masks, their features adorned with gold. Were these memorials for individuals lost at sea, their bodies never recovered? Or did they represent something else entirely mythical, ancestors, or deities who were never meant to have a physical form? The people of Varna left no written record. All we have are these silent, glittering arrangements, challenging us to imagine a world where gold was not just currency, but a language of ritual, a conduit to the sacred. The sheer quantity of it, worked with such skill so long ago, suggests a society with a complex understanding of social structure, craftsmanship, and the enduring power of legacy. Far from the Black Sea, in the ancient city of Jericho, another profound burial practice took hold around 9,000 years ago. Here, beneath the floors of their homes, people buried their dead, but for a select few, the journey did not end there. After a time, the skulls of these individuals were carefully retrieved, and a remarkable transformation began. Using plaster, The living would painstakingly recreate the features of the deceased, smoothing the plaster over the bone to form a new face. The contours of the cheeks, the line of the nose, the curve of the lips all were delicately sculpted into the empty sockets. Shells, often cowrie shells from distant shores, were pressed to serve as eyes, giving the skulls a serene, watchful gaze. These plastered skulls were not hidden away. They were kept and displayed within the home, participating, it seems, in the daily lives of the living. Were they objects of veneration, a way to keep the wisdom and presence of revered elders within the family? This act of reconstruction is deeply intimate. It speaks of a refusal to let go, a desire to bridge the gap between life and death. Perhaps these skulls served as a tangible link to the lineage, a physical embodiment of ancestry that grounded the family in its history and its claim to the land. Each shell-eyed visage looks out from the deep past, a silent testament to a community that found a way to make their beloved dead immortal, their faces forever preserved in plaster and memory. Now we travel north, to the wetlands of Europe, where the bogs have held their secrets for millennia. Here, in the oxygen-poor, acidic water, human bodies have been preserved with astonishing clarity. These are not skeletons, but people. We see their hair, their skin, the very expressions on their faces. At the moment of death, the Toland man, from Denmark, appears so peaceful he could be sleeping, the gentle stubble still visible on his chin. The Grobel man, found nearby, reveals the lines on his hands and his perfectly preserved fingerprints. Yet, many of these bog bodies show signs of a violent end. The Toland man had a leather noose around his neck. Others bear evidence of stab wounds or other injuries. What led these individuals to their final resting place in the bog? The theories are as varied as the bodies themselves. Some scholars suggest they were criminals, executed and cast into the bog as a form of punishment, denied a proper burial. The bog was a liminal space, a place between worlds, and perhaps casting someone into it was a way of erasing them from the community. A more compelling theory points to ritual sacrifice. In a world governed by the cycles of nature, perhaps these were offerings made to appease the gods of fertility and harvest, a life given to ensure the continuation of life for the community. The careful placement of the bodies, the fact that many were given a last meal, alludes to something more than simple execution. It suggests a profound, deliberate act, a solemn transaction between the human and the divine. The bog, in this view, was not a place of punishment, but an altar. In a small German valley near Talheim, a different kind of darkness was unearthed. A single, large pit, dating back to the early Neolithic period, around 7,000 years ago, held the remains of 34 individuals, men, women, and children. Unlike the careful burials we have seen, this was a scene of chaos and violence. The skeletons are jumbled together, and nearly all show evidence of fatal trauma, particularly to the back of the head, inflicted by the stone adzes used by early farmers. There are no signs of a defensive struggle, no peri-fractures on their arms. It appears they were struck down from behind, perhaps while fleeing. There are no grave goods, no signs of ritual. This was not a burial, it was a disposal. What terrible event does this pit record? It is considered one of the earliest pieces of evidence for organized warfare in Europe. Perhaps this was the brutal conclusion of a raid, one farming community attacking another, for resources, for land, for livestock, for food. The skeletons represent an entire family or small community, wiped out in a single, catastrophic event. The lack of young women in the pit has led some to speculate that they were taken captive. A valuable prize in a world where the continuation of the group was paramount, the Talheim death pit is a chilling reminder that the dawn of agriculture and settled life was not an entirely peaceful transition. It created new pressures, new conflicts, and new forms of violence that left their brutal signature written in bone. A silent testament to a community's final, tragic moments. Our journey concludes in the arid coastal plains of Peru, with the Paracas culture, which flourished over 2,000 years ago. Here, the dead were wrapped in magnificent, intricately woven textiles and buried in large, communal tombs. But it is what lies beneath the wrappings that has long captured our fascination. From a very young age, The heads of certain Paracas children were intentionally and dramatically reached by binding the infant's skull with boards, cloth, and rope. Pressure was applied over many years to elongate the cranium, forcing it to grow upwards into a conical or flattened shape. This was a painful and permanent process, a deliberate sculpting of the human form. The resulting elongated skulls are striking and, to our eyes, otherworldly. Why would a culture engage in such a practice? Cranial deformation was not unique to the Paracas, but they practiced it to an extreme degree. This was. We find ourselves drifting through the cool night air, descending toward the heart of ancient Mexico. Below us, bathed in the soft glow of moonlight, lies the vast and silent city of Teot. The Avenue of the Dead stretches out before us, a grand, central artery running 4 miles, perfectly straight and wide. It's not just a road, it's the spine of a meticulously planned urban cosmos. The entire city is laid out on a precise grid, oriented 15.5 degrees east of true north. Why this specific alignment? No one knows for sure. Some astronomers suggested aligns with the rising of the Pleiades star cluster, or perhaps the setting sun on a particular day of the year. The pyramids of the sun and moon stand as silent, geometric mountains flanking this grand avenue. They weren't just thrown together. They were built in stages over centuries, each layer a new dedication to the gods and the cosmos. As we float over the pyramid of the sun, imagine the sheer manpower required. Millions of tons of earth and stone, shaped and placed with a purpose we can only guess at. The city's residential compounds, the so-called apartment complexes, also adhere to this rigid grid. They were windowless, with rooms facing inward onto open-air patios, creating private, self-contained worlds within the larger city plan. It speaks to a society of immense organization, a collective will powerful enough to move mountains and align an entire metropolis with the stars. Our journey continues, carrying us across oceans and continents to the Indus Valley in modern-day Pakistan. We arrive at Mohenjo-daro, another ghost city from the distant past. Unlike Teotihuacan's monumental scale, what's most striking here is something hidden, something beneath our feet. This was a city of water, and more importantly, a city of drains. Nearly every house had its own washing area and toilet, a level of sanitation unheard of for its time. Around 2500 BC, these private facilities connected to a network of covered drains that lined the major streets. Think about that, a sophisticated, citywide sewage system, built with baked brick and precision, thousands of years before the Romans were celebrated for their own engineering. The wastewater was channeled out of the city, likely into the fields, in a remarkable feat of public health and urban planning. The Great Bath, a large, watertight pool in the center of the city, suggests water was also central to ritual life. But the drains, they reveal a preoccupation with cleanliness, an order that is profoundly modern. How did they achieve this? What knowledge of hydraulics and sanitation did they possess? The script they used remains undeciphered, so the minds behind this silent, efficient system remain anonymous, their genius visible only in the brick-lined channels that crisscross the silent ruins. Now, we drift southeast, over the jungles of Cambodia, to the sprawling complex of Angkor. The famous temples like Angkor Wat are just the centerpieces of a vast, low-density city that was, at its heart, a massive water machine. The Khmer Empire's power was built on its mastery of water. We can see the ghostly outlines from above, immense, rectangular reservoirs or barrays, and a web of canals stretching for hundreds of miles. This was no simple irrigation system. It was a complex hydrological network designed to capture the monsoon rains and store them through the dry season, supporting multiple rice harvests a year and feeding a population of perhaps 750,000 people. The West Barray alone is a staggering 5 miles long and 1.5 miles wide. Building it required moving more earth than the Great Pyramid of Giza. This system wasn't just practical, it was symbolic. The temples were often built as microcosms of the Hindu universe, with moats representing the cosmic ocean. The waterworks were the earthly manifestation of that divine order, a way of taming the chaotic forces of nature and creating a stable, prosperous kingdom. How did they manage such a vast and delicate system without modern surveying tools? How did they maintain it against the relentless jungle? The engineering is breathtaking, a testament to a society that understood its environment on an incredibly deep level. Our flight takes us back across the Pacific to the fertile river plains of North America, near Modran de St. Louis. Here lies Cahokia. At its peak around 1100 AD, it was the largest city north of Mexico, a bustling metropolis of mounds and plazas. The most impressive is Monk's Mound, a colossal earthen structure with a base larger than the Pyramid of the Sun. But beyond the mounds, something else reveals the city's sophisticated worldview. A series of large wooden post circles, now called wood hinges by archaeologists, were constructed to the west of Monk's Mound. These acted as precise astronomical calendars. Posts aligned perfectly with the sunrise on the solstices and equinoxes, marking the changing of the seasons. This wasn't just for farming, it was a way to connect the city's life to the rhythm of the cosmos, to anchor their world in a predictable, celestial order. The entire city seems to be laid out with these alignments in mind, suggesting a shared, powerful belief system that guided the hands of its thousands of builders. Who were the astronomers and priests who designed these cosmic clocks? What ceremonies took place as the sun rose over a specific post, heralding a new season? The wood has long since rotted away, but the post holes remain, silent witnesses to a deep understanding of the sky. Finally, we drift south, across the equator, to the high plateau of southern Africa. Below us, shimmering in the starlight, are the stone walls of Great Zimbabwe. This is a city built not of mud brick or earth, but of carefully cut granite blocks, assembled without any mortars. The most famous structure, the Great Enclosure, features a massive outer wall, over 36 feet high and 800 feet long. The stonework is remarkable, smooth and curving, a testament to incredible skill. Inside, a maze of passages leads to the mysterious conical tower, a solid stone structure whose purpose is still debated. It wasn't a fortress in the traditional sense. The walls have no defensive features. It wasn't a palace for a single king. It seems to have been a center of trade and ritual, a symbol of power and prestige. Artifacts from as far away as China and Persia have been found here, showing it was a hub in a vast international network. Why build with such precision and on such a scale? The walls seem designed to control movement and access, two separate sacred spaces from common ones, and to impress any visitor with the wealth and authority of the city's rulers. The stones themselves, quarried and shaped by hand, speak of a society with immense resources and a clear vision, yet they left no written records to explain their grand design. Descend with me now, past the shimmering surface, into a silence broken only by the sound of your own breathing. The water grows cooler, the light dimmer, as we leave the familiar world behind. We're not just diving, we're traveling through time, seeking whispers of civilizations swallowed by the sea. Our first destination lies off the coast of southern Laconia in Greece. Below us, the sandy seabed gives way to clearer, almost ghost-like outlines. These are the streets of Pavlip. It's not a collection of ruins. It's an entire town, complete with courtyards, buildings, and tombs, spread out over the ocean floor. As we drift over what was once a main thoroughfare, it's easy to imagine the daily life that unfolded here thousands of years ago. The sun warming these very stones, the sound of merchants calling out their wares, children playing. Now, only schools of fish dart through the doorways. It's the oldest submerged city we know of, a Bronze Age metropolis resting in a timeless, watery slumber. The sheer completeness of it is humbling, a perfect snapshot of a life long since past, preserved by the very sea that claimed it. We glide onward, our journey taking us to the coast of Israel, near Haifa. Here, 9 meters beneath the waves, lies Atlit Yam. The visibility shifts, and a different kind of structure emerges from the blue haze. It's a Neolithic site, a village that stood here nearly 9,000 years ago. What truly captures the imagination is the megalithic circle, a formation of large stones standing upright, arranged around what was once a freshwater spring. Why was it built? Was it a place of ritual, a ceremonial center for this ancient community? The stones stand silent, their purpose lost to time, their surfaces now home to marine life. Divers have found wells, foundations of homes, and even human remains. offering a poignant connection to the people who lived and thrived here before the rising Mediterranean slowly, inexorably took their land. It feels like intruding on a sacred space, a testament to human resilience and our ancient drive to build and create meaning. Our journey now takes us far to the east, to the waters off the coast of India, near the city of Dwar. Here, legend and archaeology intertwine in a fascinating dance. Ancient texts, like the Mahabharata, speak of a magnificent city, the kingdom of Lord Krishna, which was ultimately submerged by the ocean. For centuries, it was considered myth, but then marine archaeologists began to discover something incredible in the Gulf of Cambay. Extensive, geometrically laid out structures, spread over a vast area deep below the surface. Artifacts dredged up have been dated back thousands of years. Could this be the legendary Dwarka? The debate is passionate, while some scholars urge caution, pointing to the complexities of dating and interpretation. The sheer scale of the underwater discovery is staggering. Drifting through this murky deep, you can't help but feel the pull of the ancient story, wondering if you are floating above the golden city of a god, its truth guarded by the depths. Let's travel north, to the vast expanse of the North Sea, between Great Britain and mainland Europe. Here, there is no city to see, no stone circles. There is only a seemingly endless plain of sand and silt beneath the waves. But this is Doggerland, not a city, but a lost continent, a huge tract of land that was once a fertile heartland of Mesolithic Europe. Tens of thousands of years ago, this was a landscape of rolling hills, marshes, and wooded valleys, teeming with life. Hunter-gatherers roamed these lands, and their tools flint, bone, and antler still sometimes caught in the nets of fishing trawlers. Ghostly messages from a drowned world. We are floating over a prehistoric landscape, a vast area that connected islands and mainlands, a highway for our ancient ancestors. The slow, relentless rise of the sea after the last ice age inundated it all. Gradually, generation by generation, turning a homeland into a seafloor. It's a powerful reminder of how profoundly our world can change, and how landscapes we consider permanent are, in geological time, merely fleeting. Our final descent takes us to the waters off the southernmost of the Ryukyu Islands of Japan. Here, we encounter the most controversial and enigmatic of all underwater sites, the Yonaguni Monument. As we approach, what comes into view is breathtaking. A massive rock formation, with what appears to be immense, flat terraces, sharp, almost perfect right angles, and towering, step-like structures. It looks for all the world like a man-made pyramid or a temple complex, sunk beneath the waves. The debate rages. Are these the ruins of a lost, ancient civilization, Japanese Atlantis? Or are they, as many geologists argue, a spectacular but entirely natural formation, the result of sandstone eroding along its natural planes and fractures? The lines are so clean, the shapes so suggestive, it's hard to dismiss the idea of human hands. As we swim along a feature known as the turtle, you can trace the lines and wonder. Nature can create incredible symmetry, but this feels different, deliberate. The Yonaguni Monument holds its secrets close, leaving us with more questions than answers. A perfect, profound mystery resting in the deep blue. The currents swirl around its stone face, carrying with them only silence and speculation. A fitting place to pause in our journey through these submerged worlds. Imagine, if you will, the gentle lapping of waves against a wooden hull, the only light coming from a swaying lantern on deck, casting long shadows across crates and amphitheaters. The air is cool and salty, filled with the scent of pine resin and the faint, foreign aroma of spices packed tightly for a long journey. This is the world of ancient trade, a world not of spreadsheets and shipping containers, but of intuition, courage, and a web of human connections stretching across thousands of miles. Consider the Aluburan shipwreck, resting on the seabed off the coast of modern-day Turkey for over 3,000 years. It wasn't just a ship, it was a floating microcosm of the late Bronze Age world. 10 tons of copper ingots, likely from Cyprus, lay alongside a ton of tin. But where did that tin come from? Its chemical signature doesn't point to any nearby source. Could it have traveled from the distant mountains of Afghanistan? Or perhaps even from as far as Cornwall in Britain? The ship also carried logs of African blackwood, destined, perhaps, to become fine furniture in an Aegean palace. They were Canaanite jars filled with terebinth resin, used for incense or perfume, and a treasure trove of finished goods. Mycenaean pottery, Egyptian scarabs, even a bronze sword from Italy. The Alubiran shipwreck isn't just a collection of artifacts. It's a silent testament to a bustling, interconnected world, a single thread pulled from a vast and complex tapestry of trade. Its captain navigated not just by stars, but by relationships, by promises made in bustling port cities from the Levant to the Aegean. And that mystery of the tin is a puzzle that echoes across the entire Bronze Age. Bronze, the alloy that defined an era, is made from copper and tin. Copper was relatively abundant, but tin was incredibly scarce. So, where did the great empires of the Near East and the Mediterranean get their supply? The texts of ancient cities, like Mari, on the Euphrates, speak of tin shipments arriving from the east, but they never name the ultimate source. Archaeologists and geologists have become detectives, analyzing the faint isotopic fingerprints within bronze artifacts. Some clues point towards Central Asia, to the mineral-rich mountain ranges of modern-day Afghanistan and Tajikistan. It is a staggering thought that the material for a warrioress helmet in Greece might have begun its journey on the back of a donkey, traversing some of the world's most formidable terrain. Other theories look west, to the riverbeds of Spain or the remote hills of Cornwall. Perhaps there wasn't one single source, but many. A network of streams feeding a great river of metal that flowed across the continents. Let's leave the metals and follow a different path, one that glows with a warm, honeyed light. Follow the trail of Baltic amber. This fossilized tree resin, treasured for its beauty and supposed magical properties, is found in abundance along the shores of the Baltic Sea. Yet, it has been discovered in the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs and in the treasure-filled graves of Mycenaean kings. How did this gold of the north travel so far? We can imagine the journey, traded from tribe to tribe, passed along river routes like the Vistula and the Danube, its value increasing with every mile it traveled south. Each piece of amber held within it the scent of a distant, coniferous forest, a whisper of a cold sea, a tangible link to a world that most of its eventual owners could never imagine. It wasn't just a commodity. It was a piece of the north, a magical substance carried south by a chain of hands. The opposite journey is just as fascinating. In northern Europe, scattered across Brittany, and Denmark, archaeologists have found beautiful, impractical, and incredibly polished axes made from jadeite. They are objects of supreme craftsmanship. But the stone itself, the raw jadeite, comes from a very specific place, the Italian Alps. Think of that. Someone 5,000 or 6,000 years ago scaled the high Alps to quarry this specific greenstone. Then it was worked and polished, likely near the source, before beginning a long journey northward, again passed from hand to hand, from village to village, until it reached the shores of the Atlantic. These axes weren't for chopping wood. They were symbols of power, of connection, of access to something rare and exotic. Holding one must have felt like holding a piece of the southern mountains, a connection to the very heart of the continent. Finally, let us travel to the arid plains and mountains of what is now Afghanistan. Here, in the mines of Sorisang, is the world's primary source of the finest lapis lazuli, a stone of a deep, celestial blue, flecked with golden pyrite. For millennia, this was the only known source, and yet, this vibrant blue stone adorns the funerary mask of Tut. It decorates the intricate inlays of the royal standard of Yor and Samir, and it is mentioned in poetry and myths across the ancient world. The journey of lapis lazuli is one of the longest and oldest trade routes in human history. It crossed deserts and mountains, navigated treacherous political landscapes, and passed through countless hands before it was ground into pigment for a painter in a Theban tomb, or set into a necklace for a queen in Mesopotamia. In a quiet, lantern-lit warehouse in a city like Yor or Memphis, a merchant would unwrap a piece of this stone. Its deep blue, a stunning contrast to the dusty. It wasn't just a pretty rock. It was a piece of a distant mountain, a fragment of the night sky, a symbol of wealth and divine favor that had traveled for months, or even years, to reach its final destination. Let's return now, not to a specific place, but to a feeling. The feeling of still air. Imagine yourself deep within the earth, in a chamber carved from stone thousands of years ago. The air is cool and heavy, motionless. It carries no scent of the outside world, no hint of wind or rain. It has a presence, a weight of its own. In this profound silence, the loudest sound is your own existence, the gentle rhythm of your breath, a soft whoosh as you inhale, a quiet sigh as you exhale. Each breath becomes an event, a marker of time in the stillness. You can almost feel the air parting before you and closing behind you as you move. It's in this environment that the slightest sound takes on immense significance. A footstep doesn't just land, it sends a report, a sharp crack that travels, seeking a surface to connect with. And when it finds one, the echo returns, not as a simple copy, but as a ghost of the original sound, changed by its journey. Think of the labyrinthine passages of Chavin de Huantor in Peru. Scholars suggest these narrow, twisting corridors were not just for passage, but were acoustic instruments themselves. The sound of a conch shell trumpet, a strombus, blown in one chamber, would not simply echo. It would be filtered, amplified, and distorted as it traveled through the stone maze. Imagine standing in a distant cell, hearing not a clear trumpet blast, but a disembodied, otherworldly roar, seemingly coming from the very rock around you. Was this meant to inspire or to simulate the voice of a jaguar deity? The builders left no written record, only the stone and the silence, leaving the debate open. The sound waves, bouncing off walls, turning corners, create a complex tapestry of resonance, a soundscape that could transport the listener to another state of consciousness. This manipulation of sound wasn't limited to a single culture. Far across the ocean, on the island of Malta, lies the Cal Saflini Hypogeum, a subterranean sanctuary carved around 3300 BC. Here, the focus shifts to a different frequency. Certain chambers within this complex resonate powerfully at a very specific low frequency, around 110 Hz. This falls within the range of a low male voice chanting. When someone speaks or chants in this space, the sound doesn't just echo, it seems to swell, to fill the chamber and vibrate within your very bones. Researchers have explored the effects of such low-frequency vibrations on the human brain, finding that they can shift brain activity, potentially inducing a trance-like or meditative state. Was this intentional? Did the builders discover this acoustic anomaly by accident and then build their sacred space around it? Or did they possess a sophisticated, intuitive understanding of acoustics, deliberately engineering a space to alter perception? We can stand in that chamber today, feel the hum and wonder. The effect is undeniable, but the intention remains shrouded in the deep past. Light, too, was sculpted with the same precision as stone and sound. In Ireland, older still than the pyramids of Giza, stands Nui. For most of the year, its central chamber is entombed in absolute darkness. But for a few days around the winter solstice, something extraordinary happens. As the sun rises on the shortest day of the year, a narrow beam of light penetrates a small opening, a roof box, above the main entrance. This golden shaft travels slowly down a 19-meter-long passage, gradually illuminating the floor of the central chamber. For about 17 minutes, the darkness is banished, replaced by a warm, ethereal glow. The precision is breathtaking. It required a deep understanding of celestial mechanics, a patient observation of the sun's journey over years, if not generations. What did this moment signify? The rebirth of the sun, a promise of returning light and warmth, a connection between the world of the living and the realm of the ancestors buried within. To witness it is to feel a direct connection to its builders, to share a moment precisely orchestrated 5 millennia ago. This interplay of light and sound echoes across continents. In the arid landscapes of Chaco Canyon, in what is now New Mexico, the ancestral Pueblones built vast, multi-storied great houses. Their masonry is famous, but their relationship with the landscape's acoustics is just as fascinating. In certain locations, a shout from a cliff edge will produce a cascade of distinct echoes, bouncing back and forth across the canyon walls. Some researchers have mapped these echo chambers, finding they often align with ceremonial sites or rock art panels. Did messengers use these acoustic sweet spots to communicate across vast distances? Were they an integral part of ceremonies, with chants designed to interact with the canyon's natural reverberations, creating a dialogue between the people and the land itself? The sounds are still there, waiting for us to listen. You can stand where they stood, call out, and hear the landscape answer you, just as it answered them 1,000 years ago. Even the grandest structures hold these secrets. The Great Pyramids of Egypt, marvels of engineering, also possess peculiar acoustic properties. Whispers can travel along the vast stone walls of the Grand Gallery in the Great Pyramid of Giza, audible from a great distance. The King's Chamber, built of solid granite, has a unique, resonant frequency. Some have experimented, finding that the chamber seems to amplify certain tones, creating a profound, humming vibration. While many Egyptologists maintain these are simply incidental byproducts of construction, a consequence of using flat, hard surfaces in an enclosed space, others are not so sure. They ask if it's possible that these acoustic effects served a purpose within the complex funerary rituals. Could sound have played a role in the pharaoh's symbolic journey to the afterlife? We are left with the physical space, the way sound moves within it, and the tantalizing possibility that these structures were designed for more than just the eye, but for the ear and for the spirit. The air inside is still, holding these questions, waiting. Have you ever stared up at the night sky and felt a sense of timelessness? The stars we see are ghosts of light, their journey to our eyes taking years, centuries, millennia. We look into the past just by looking up. It's a feeling that reminds me of our own human story. A story where the timeline isn't always as clear as we'd like to believe. It flickers like starlight. Take the eruption of Thera, the volcanic event that buried the Minoan settlement of Akrotiri. For a long time, archaeologists placed it around 1500 BC, based on pottery styles and connections with Egyptian chronologies. But then, other sciences began to whisper different stories. Radiocarbon dating of an olive branch, buried and preserved by the ash, pointed to a date a century earlier, sometime in the late 17th century BC. This created a significant discrepancy, a gap of over 100 years. Which timeline is correct? The archaeological one, tied to the well-established reigns of pharaohs, or the scientific one, based on the steady, predictable decay of carbon-14? It's a debate that highlights the challenges of piecing together the past. The data from ice cores in Greenland, which show a spike in sulfuric acid corresponding to a massive volcanic eruption around the same time, seems to support the earlier date. Yet, the pottery trail, a method honed over decades, tells a different story. It's a quiet conflict between different ways of measuring time. This isn't an isolated puzzle. Radiocarbon dating itself has its own ghostly fluctuations. We assume the amount of carbon-14 in the atmosphere has always been constant, but it hasn't. Solar activity and changes in Earth's magnetic field can alter its production. This leads to what scientists call radiocarbon plateaus, periods where objects from different dates can yield the same radiocarbon age. Imagine trying to read a book where several pages have the exact same page number. It creates a blur, a haze in our timeline, making it difficult to pinpoint events with absolute precision during these specific windows of history. To navigate these blurs, scientists search for anchors, specific markers that can sync up different chronologies. For instance, they look for unique events recorded in tree rings. A massive volcanic eruption or a solar flare can leave a distinct signature in the wood, a specific ring that can be cross-referenced across the globe. By matching these tree ring markers with similar spikes found in ice core layers, we can build a more robust, integrated timeline. It's like finding a shared celestial event witnessed by different cultures, allowing us to align their calendars. This very challenge of correlation is at the heart of understanding the Mayan long count calendar. We have this incredibly precise, intricate system left behind by the Maya, counting the days from a mythical start date. But how does it sync up with our own Gregorian calendar? Scholars have proposed various correlation constants to bridge the two, with the GMT correlation, the Goodman-Martinez, Thompson being the most widely accepted. But it remains a hypothesis, a best fit based on astronomical records and colonial era documents. A slight shift in that constant would move the entire Mayan historical framework forward or backward in our own timeline. The grand structures of Tikal and Palenque would drift in time, their stories shifting with them. And then there are the enigmas that seem to defy our conventional timelines altogether, inviting us to wonder if our understanding of the deep past is missing entire chapters. Consider the Great Sphinx of Giza. Egyptologists confidently date it to the reign of Pharaoh Khuf around 2500 BC, placing it firmly in the 4th dynasty. The logic is sound. It sits within his pyramid complex, and its face bears a resemblance to his known statues. But in the 1990s, a geological perspective offered a radical alternative. Some researchers looked at the deep, vertical weathering patterns on the limestone walls of the Sphinx enclosure and argued they were UN caused by wind and sand, but by significant rainfall over a very long period. The Sahara wasn't always a desert. It experienced a much wetter period that ended thousands of years before Khafre's time. This erosion hypothesis suggests that the Sphinx's body, if not its head, might be far older, a remnant from a much earlier, wetter era. This idea remains on the fringes of mainstream thought, and there are strong counter-arguments suggesting localized rainfall. Morning dew condensation, or the quality of the limestone could explain the erosion. It's not a settled matter, but it invites a moment of reflection, doesn't it? It asks us to look at something we think we know and consider a completely different story. One written not in hieroglyphs, but in the slow, patient language of water on stone. These aren't failures of science or history. They are the very essence of the process. They are the frontiers where knowledge is being forged. Each ambiguity, each chronological debate, is a reminder that history is not a static list of dates and events. It's a living, breathing investigation, a conversation between different fields of study, each contributing a piece to a puzzle that may never be truly complete. It's the quiet thrill of knowing that the past still holds its secrets, waiting under layers of ash, locked in the rings of a tree, or hidden in the erosion patterns of ancient stone. The story is still being written, and there's a certain comfort in that endless, unfolding mystery. If you enjoy contemplating these deeper questions and exploring the quiet edges of our known history, I invite you to continue this journey with me. Consider subscribing and joining our community of curious minds. Thank you for sharing this quiet moment of reflection